So it's been a while since I watched any action related to Bathurst, the famous race in Australia. And someone recommended this video. It's called The History of the Bathurst 1000, I guess. I've seen there's like videos like with a similar title based on the history of the world and different things like that as well. So yeah, just interested to learn about this race. I've seen some action from it, and it's always one of the most exciting races, motorsport races in the world. Potentially the most exciting, an amazing track as well. Yeah, you can tell me what you think about this, and yeah, excited to learn more about it. Let's learn.
On Earth, there are 193 countries. One of the countries is called Australia. Australia has 6 states and 2 territories. One of the states is called New South Wales. New South Wales has a city called Bathurst. Bathurst has a mountain called Mount Panorama, and ever since 1963, this has happened there.
Always so much good action when I watch videos about it. So yeah, 1963. Tell me when you think's the best time period. You can see the cars have obviously changed a lot since then, which is obvious really over time in any race. But do you have like a favourite year, a favourite time period, a favourite type of car that raced in this? Maybe I'll try and watch some more older action from this race.
It's 1938, and this guy wants a racetrack in his hometown, knowing full well it won't be approved. So he tricked the high-ranked politicians into funding a scenic route to attract tourists. Just weeks after its completion, it held its first ever race, the Australian Tourist Trophy. Fast forward to 1963, and the Australian Production Car Championship are looking for a track capable enough to hold the annual 500-mile race. One of the boys is like,
"There is a track in Bathurst that goes hard. We should get it up."
and all the lads were like,
"Oh, very good then, for the match." Yes, indeed.
And just like that, the iconic Bathurst race came to fruition. The race cars that competed in the Production Car Championship were just that. Production cars bought straight from the showroom floor, divided into different classes depending on their price, and raced.
Cool.
The
Man.
Ford Cortina GTs and Mini Cooper S's were the big hitters of the early events. By 1967, Ford Australia made a phone call to their big brother over at Ford America, and we're all like, "Know those really popular Mustangs you have over there that are powered by the 289 Windsors? Is there any chance that we can import a couple of those V8s to put in one of our locally built Falcons so we can win Bathurst with it?" And the Yanks, being the top blokes that they are, we're all like,
"Hell yeah, brother."
And the Ford XR.
Yeah, I just want to say, I want to actually see footage from that first one. Like, it seems like, yeah, pretty cool to see all the different types of cars. Love to see a mini racing around that track as well. If you know of any good videos showing any clips of that, I guess there might not be so many online, but please recommend them as well. What do you think about that as well? I love to see a race like that these days as well, showing some different cars, different models, different engine sizes and so on, racing against each other just for fun.
The Ford XR GT Falcon was born and went on to be the first V8 powered car to win the race. The Australian muscle car era was born. Holden, which is Australia's division of General Motors, saw what Ford were doing with the American V8s and their locally built Fords and did the same strategy the following years with M&RO, stuffing them with small block Chevy V8s from America. Ford, upset with losing at their own game, put out all the stops with the latest model of Ford, giving their driver Alan Moffat back-to-back victories in 1970 and 71. Knock knock, who's there? Peter Brock. He's all like, how about we use more fuel-efficient 6-cylinder engines in a smaller car, the Tirana, and use it to do less pit stops throughout the event and win the race that way? He'd used his technique to win in 1972, but the strategy was short-lived because this would be the last time a non-V8 powered car would win until the Group 8 era, over 10 years later. Then the great Supercar scare of 72 happened. Pretty much the Karens of the day were upset that people were having fun with high-powered cars at Bathurst. And they tried to put a stop to it.
Really?
Ford and Holden were somewhat forced to cut their backing of teams.
That's I mean, even that's something quite interesting in itself, man. Like, it's such a big story. Yeah, man, very dramatic. I mean, that's only 10 years or so since the start of that race, and it really like changed so much in that short time period.
Forced to cut their backing of teams, but they still enjoyed the event. The rest of the decade was made up of Holden and Ford trading blows in their V8 monsters. Ford would win with their Falcon one year, and the next year Holden would hit back with their Tirana, now stuffed with a powerful V8 engine too. The most notable achievements at his time were the change in format from 500 miles to 1,000 kilometers in 1973. Regulation changes that allowed wider racing tyres to be fitted to the cars, as well as more safety equipment. Group C is born. The first ever 1-2 form finish in 1977 by Moffat, and Brock's dominant victory in 1979, winning by over 6 laps to the second place car. By 1980, Brock is on an absolute tear and looking to easily win 3 years in a row, until privateer Dick Johnson showed up on the scene. Johnson, who mortgaged his house and blew his life savings to build a bad fast XD Falcon with no serious support, would smoke everyone to the weeds in the opening laps of the event. That wasn't until by some way or somehow a rock made its way onto the track, which Johnson hit, wiping him completely out of the race and destroying his car. The devastated Johnson was guided back to the pits, his dream and personal finances in a state of disrepair. Viewers at home, also upset with the turn of events, started donating money to the broke Johnson to help rebuild his car that was completely destroyed. Brock went on to win the race, making him the first person to win the event 3 years in a row. In 81, Johnson, using the donated funds from the Australian people and Ford Australia, would rebuild his car and win the event, which made for a pretty cool comeback story.
That's an amazing story, man. That's sounds like it could be a movie like about him. I mean, you've got Brock winning 3 years in a row. Then you got this not tragedy, it's not that deep, but like this sad story, like this guy self-funding his car, and then whatever happened, him being put out of the race and coming back to win, man. What a comeback story, like that's so good. Tell me, who's the most famous driver from this race as well? What is Brock's legacy today, for instance? And this is a really cool story for Johnson.
Someone should make an in-depth video about this. In 1982,
maybe
Brock
watch
would remember how
that.
awesome it was to win 3 Bathursts in a row, so he would do it again. Then, in 1985, something that hasn't happened to Australia since 1770 occurred. The British discovered the land and claimed it as their own. But this time, instead of using sailing ships like Captain Cook did, they used European-styled race cars and the rulebooks that they came under that made all the locally built cars that were much faster illegal due to their engine sizes and tyre width. Group A is born. To say that this new rule package was unpopular is quite the understatement, and it was very easy to see why. Out were the local heroes of big-tired Commodores and large-engine Falcons, and in came the Jaguars, neutered small-tyre Commodores, Nissan Skylines, Ford Mustangs, and later on Ford Sierras. The European spec cars were much slower too. The pole time in 1985 was 5 seconds slower than the pole time of the previous year's race. In fact, all but one of the cars in the previous year's top 10 was quicker than the 1985 time. Oh, that makes sense. By the plus...
if you're a fan of this race at that time, you must have been like so unhappy, man. Like why even do that? Like surely the excitement is in how fast it is. Pretty interesting story there as well.
By the plus side, there were 4 different makes of cars from 3 different countries to find the top step of the podium in 8 years. Despite the drop in pace, the risk was as high as ever and was made tragically evident during the 1986 running of the event, when coming down Commodore Straight, Mike Bergerman lost control of his Commodore and hit the retaining wall with fatal results. The following year, the Chase chicane was added to the long straight in an attempt to slow the cars down. The start of this new era, with the Chase chicane being added to the circuit, would mark the end of an old era, as this would be the year that Peter Brock would get his 9th and final Bathurst 1000 victory. The 1992 running of the event would see the last year of the race be run under Group A rule, and would be taken out by the Almighty Nissan R32 GTR Skyline Godzilla, even after crashing.
No. Oh, no.
The red caused the red flag, and the Nissan was determined the winner. The crowd weren't the happiest about this victory, but race winner, gentleman Jim Richards, took it well.
You're a pack of assholes.
Yeah.
In 1993, the unpopular Group A rules were replaced with the much-loved and still in effect Australian touring car rules that featured high-output V8-powered saloon cars from Ford and Holden, a recipe that was so popular during the 1970s and early 80s. V8 Supercars are born. It changed its name over the years, but the formula is mostly the same to this day. And just like back in the 70s, it was a tit-for-tat battle between Holden and Ford once again. Holden would win, then Ford would punch back the next year, then Holden would hit back again, sometimes coming from last place to do so.
The guy in last position has won the race.
Never been done.
And then in 1997, it was won by a BMW. Wait, what? Okay guys, stick with me here.
Just before that, like when it was like this back and forth between Holden and Ford, where like, I know people will support like drivers themselves, but would people support based on, like, would they support Holden because it's Australian? Does that make sense? People do that sort of thing.
Wait, what?
Rather
Okay,
than a
guys,
Ford car.
stick with me here. In 1997 and 1998, two Bathurst 1000s came to be because of a telecast dispute. The newly made V8 Supercars telecast rights came under Channel 10, which had absolutely nothing to do with the Bathurst 1000 event itself, because V8 Supercars ran their own event and was their own separate entity. But the Bathurst 1000 telecast rights came under Channel 7. Channel 7 now upset with the fact that Channel 10 held the Bathurst 1000 for V8 Supercars, which they had no jurisdiction over, now made their own Bathurst 1000 telecast featuring 2-litre Super Tourers from Europe, in the hope of cutting themselves a nice slice of the Bathurst 1000 cake yet again. One of these two formulas would be very, very popular, and the other one, not so much, and would die out by 1999. Back in V8 land for good now, it was a great mix of Holden and Ford victories, until it wasn't. At the turn of the millennium came an absolute bloodbath, and it was almost impossible for Holden to lose. They would win back to back to back to back to back to back to back victories. The Fords had plenty of lightning fast Falcons, but the racing gods were just never on their side.
This is race leader Paul Radicic. Front right has blown. That is one of the most gut-wrenching moments I think I've ever seen. A mountain panorama, 20 laps to go. This team has looked so strong, has led so many laps.
But Ford's heartache at Bathurst would seem minimal in comparison to what would happen on September 8th, 2006.
Tonight, Australia loses another hero. Bathurst legend Peter Brock killed in a rally crash north of Perth.
There was not a single Australian that wasn't affected by the loss of his national treasure in some way. He vibed in the same frequency of acclaim as Bruce McLaren, Dale Earnhardt, Ann Senna and Jim Clark did for their homelands. Then a month later came arguably the most important race in Bathurst history.
So sad, man. Such a legend of motorsport in Australia, clearly as well. Same year as Steve Irwin. So yeah, again, I guess that was more known in Australia rather than internationally, apart from maybe just motorsport fans. But really sad, man. Such a legend. Yeah, great respect to him, man. Such an amazing driver and great success in his career.
2006 running of the event. The feelings around the race were very somber, with pre-race remembrances consisting of a parade of all the cars Brocky used to win the race in front of a record sellout crowd. And one of these cars was driven by Craig Lowndes. It was no secret that when Brock was nearing retirement, he wanted to teach some of his skills to the next generation, and Craig Lowndes was also happy to pick up his offerings. They had an unbreakable family-like relationship, and Brock's death was a terrible loss for Craig Lowndes, and nothing meant more to Lowndes than avenging his great friend and mentor by winning the trophy now named in Brock's honour. But it has been 10 years since he's had his only win at the event, and he was now in a Ford. All that people remembered him for at this point was being the biggest traitor in racing history. None of this mattered to him though, as he lined up 6th on the grid with one goal in mind. What followed was 1,000 kilometres of pure auto racing poetry.
The Super Cheap Auto 1000 is on and right, got a brilliant start. Scaife has bogged it down and he has been swamped. Scaife is in the wall. Scaife's day is done.
Right, he's got a pit problem. He's got a problem in his pitting, I should say. Oh, and he's overshot the marker here. Can you hear us running on 8 at the moment? Oh, no more trouble up the top of the hill. This time it's car number 17. And
This weekend has been all about farewelling the great man, Peter Brock, the friend and mentor to Craig Lowndes. This will be a huge outpouring of emotion. 10 years in the waiting. Lowndes and Whincup do it.
Lowndes and his teammate Jamie Whincup would go on to win 3 years in a row, just like Brocky did in the 80s and late 70s.
That's like, it's like, what's the chances of that happening? That's such like a beautiful moment, like one of these things. It's like fate just meant to be. Like, tell me at the time, like, how was that? Like, if you're like watching this race, like, how was that? Like, how was it reported on? What did people feel about it? It must have been like a magnificent moment, honestly.
In 2010, a rule change would happen that would force all the main drivers to power over a driver from outside the main series of competition. This wouldn't change the results for Lowndes, who would go on to win regardless of his teammate, but this would be the era where Top Gun driver Joe Whincup would become a meme.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
While all this was going on, the greatest motor race ever would happen in 2014. I'm not even going to cover it, just do yourself a favour and watch Josh Ravel's video on it. Lowndes would go on to get 2 more victories in 2015 and 2018. In 2016, Will Davison would drive through the late race mayhem to go from 4th to victory to get his second Bathurst win since 2009.
but look at this. Look at
The following year, David Reynolds would get a very popular victory in a mostly wet race. 2019 would see current IndyCar star and Kiwi Scotty McLaughlin put his name on a very impressive winners list in his Ford Mustang. This was the first time a two-door car had won since the Group A era mentioned earlier. 2020 would belong to fellow Kiwi Shane Van Gisbergen and would be his first win at the event. 2021's victory belonged to Chaz Mostert, and this would be the first time since 2003 that the person staying on pole would actually go on to win the race. 2022 saw Shane Van Gisbergen's second event win and the last for Holden as a brand, as the name brand was dropped by GM's lineup, making for a bittersweet moment. And that pretty much brings us to now. It's been a long journey, and I know that I didn't cover everything. Just one of these stories alone could have easily been a half-hour video. Massive shout out to Bill Warts and Roman Hill. Impersonation truly is the greatest form of flattery. And a massive shout out to all you guys that watched this video. I really hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it for you. So, thanks for all that, and peace out.
Great video, man. I'll leave the link to that in the description. Go subscribe to the channel. It's like just such a nice little video to watch, very informative. Yeah, like great to learn more about Bathurst. I've watched a few videos, seen some action, but this is really give me a good understanding of the history of it, the battle between Ford and Holden, the racers there who have dominated, the legends of the race itself. Tell me what you think about it. As I said, what's your favourite time period, your favourite driver, your favourite race? I'm sure you've probably got like a favourite memorable race. Tell me about that in the comments as well, but go subscribe to this channel. Thanks.